In practical terms, what does the Bible tell you about, for instance, sexual behavior?
First of all, sexual behavior is a relationship between a husband and wife. And you notice I emphasize husband and wife. It is immoral, and I would even go as far as, I'm perhaps very careful to say illegal, for young couples to cohabitate before they are married. The Bible is very emphatic about this morality.
This is tough talking for a 14, 15-year-old young person to be told that they can't have sexual relationships. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that very loud and clear. If I tell a boy or a girl, you can't steal, whatever anybody else tells you today that you can go into Tesco's and help yourself, we say it is forbidden to take something that does not belong to you. The same as I'm also forbidden in my religion to eat any unclean animal. For example, I'm not allowed bacon, I'm not allowed ham. I know I'm not allowed it. The same thing is, I'm not allowed sexual relationships before I am married.
Islam do not allow the sexual activities outside the marriage. It breeds a lot of difficulties, a lot of problems, and therefore it is only allowed once the two individuals have decided to get married to each other, and then it is allowed to them. It isn't just the sexual activities. You could see the follow-up problems. If one has not decided to get live as husband and wife and get married, what's going to happen to the children as a result of these activities, sexual activities? Who will be responsible for that? What's about the looking after of those children? Bringing up, education, their rights, their responsibilities. All these things are important for any individual.
If your daughter came up to you, or if you had a daughter, and she came up to you and said that she was having a relationship with a young man and she was 15 years old, what would you say to her?
If my daughter was only 15 and she was in that situation, I would be concerned because I think that 15 is young to be engaged in a serious sexual relationship, if this is what is being indicated. Of course, 15-year-olds fall in love and have relationships, and that is good and something to be thanked God for. But I think what the Christian church teaches is that there should be an appropriate relationship between the degree of commitment that people have for each other and the sexual expression of that commitment. So if people are engaged in a very heavy sexual relationship at a young age with somebody that they probably won't marry, then I think that is a matter of concern.
Young people having sexual activity, 14, 15-year-olds, what would you say about that?
Again, look at the situation, don't generalise. Is it genuinely consensual? Do both people involved want to do it genuinely? That's the first point. No pressure, no social pressure because other people are supposed to be having sex, you think you should be, and so on. Second point, is it safer sex? Is there a risk of pregnancy, sexually transmitted diseases? Very important. And the more difficult aspect is, what would other people think if they found out? One of the parents might perhaps, you think, go completely up the wall if they found out. Is it morally wrong, therefore? You've got to consider their feelings, but the first thing that comes first is the two people concerned, their welfare, their choice.
No, it is forbidden. Any relationship which will put you into any form of danger is completely forbidden. And therefore, I would tell any 14 and 15-year-old self-respect. It's very nice, the boys will notch up another success, but all the girl has done is given herself a reputation, God forbid, could be a pregnancy which is unwanted, and even further, God forbid, an illness which could be incurable.
The most important thing is that young people act responsibly. So when they're choosing to have sex, they're thinking about those factors. If they go ahead, that's their choice. That's good. But they are thinking responsibly about all those issues. That is the most important point. We value relationships. We value the aspect you might call love, not just sex, but actually caring about the other person. but we're not going to be so judgmental as to say in no situation can people experiment with sex, so on when they're young. If it's safer, if it's responsible, fine. You've got a right to do that.
You obviously feel strongly about it. How far would you go to stop it?
I don't. It is fundamental to a whole Christian approach to morality that we should respect people's consciences, that we should respect people's decisions. I think that with a 15-year-old, parents are quite right to try to talk to their children and argue with their children and to try to persuade them if they're seriously worried about the nature of a particular relationship.
Some parents would stop it, probably physically stop it. Are they right?
It's very difficult to know how parents could actually physically stop a relationship, and if two people are determined to see each other, they will see each other anyway. I mean, I think if parents disapprove of a relationship, basically all they can do is express their disapproval. But I think it's desperately important that they should at the same time communicate strongly the fact that they deeply care for their child and they want their best for the child. And the last thing we want is children thrown out of their homes.
Does the community take any responsibility for the actions of young people, or is it just a personal thing? Is it something that the individual has to work out for themselves?
Well, it is that when the Islam have given a clear ruling that the sexual relationship is not allowed outside the marriage, then also creates a sort of atmosphere and gives the guidance. So we do not have as many occasions when this could be possible. For example, it is encouraged that once the young people get familiar to themselves, the both sexes should be kept apart. If like the young boys, male and female, should be educated separately if it is at all possible. One alone young man and alone young woman should not be allowed to roam around and wander around together because that also encourages towards that direction.
What would you say then to a Muslim mother who said, you were at my daughter's school, you were talking about sex before marriage, this is completely against everything, my whole existence? What would you say to her?
Fine, her values are different, but her child is at that school. And that young person has a right to know different views. Now, certainly they can stand up in the class and say, but I know that from my religion, what that bloke there's saying is complete rubbish because. That's good, they should have that freedom. But everyone really needs to be exposed to different beliefs. Just as I say, you should learn about religions. And I read what religions have to say on things, otherwise how can I talk about them? So if young people are just going to be exposed to one view, are they going to cope in the real world? We've all got to get along, know what's out there, think about it.
Please wait until you're married, because you've asked the question, 14 or 15-year-old. I'll tell you, I hear it 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds. So what we're saying now is this: today it's 14, tomorrow it's 13. Children mature far quicker. Where do we draw the line?